Hey everybody, I want to talk to you about something that is a very difficult issue for a lot of people, and that is using food as a mechanism to injure yourself or to self-sabotage yourself. This is a prevalent and common psychological problem, and it's not a simple problem. A lot of people say things like just pick good food or do something different or what have you, but the roots of this problem are much deeper. And I'm going to bare my soul a little bit in the process of discussing this with you guys because it's an important issue and it's a major contributing factor to people not doing well with their diet. So um, many years ago, I used to smoke, and I didn't smoke a lot, but I would smoke one or two, sometimes three cigarettes in a day. And amazingly, I did that despite the fact that I was a pretty intense athlete and was doing what I'm doing now, which is spending a lot of time in the gym and also spending a lot of time on my bike. And I used to justify smoking cigarettes by telling myself that I was very healthy and I ate well. So if I had a little 0 calorie splurge and indulgence by having a cigarette, then what's the harm in that? It was not a whole lot of cigarettes, and what was the harm in that? But as time went by, I started to think of it in a different way, and that was that there's nothing good about cigarettes. And why should I injure myself as a function of trying to make myself feel better? Because that's really what I was doing. I was creating an injury to myself by smoking and turning that into something that was something I was trying to perceive as positive. Um, so to go on a little bit deeper on that story, I decided a few different times that I was going to quit. And I found quitting to be extraordinarily difficult, despite the fact that I smoked very little. I would try to quit smoking, and something would happen, a trigger, like similar triggers that people might have to overeat. For instance, I was running a very busy business. I was in the medical imaging business and had two imaging facilities, and I was very busy. And it's a difficult industry because it's under tremendous amount of pressure for price cutting and for corruption. There's a lot of corruption in that industry. It's pretty rampant and pretty disgusting. And it was really stressful to be involved in that industry and to work really hard and know that the best day that you were going to have was today, because tomorrow there's a new regulation, there's a new thing coming down that's going to make it more and more difficult for you to make ends meet. In the meantime, you've got a big staff that you have to pay and bills that have to be paid, and all these things are your responsibility. And despite how much work that you put into it, there's literally no way that it was ever going to get any better than it was today. And that's a really miserable place to be. And I would use cigarettes as a means to take the edge off of that. So I'd have a rough day at work. I'd have to deal with some type of new problem, which they were ever present and never ending. And I would have a cigarette at night when I got home. And that was my mechanism for calming down and feeling relaxed and so on. So anyway, I was dealing with all these problems and all these stresses, and I still decided that I wanted to quit smoking. It wasn't easy. So I would find myself thinking about cigarettes a lot of the time. And then every now and then, despite the fact that I threw away the cigarettes that I had in my house, I would, in the middle of a rainstorm, get in my car and drive down to the stupid stop and go 7-Eleven little convenience store and buy a pack of cigarettes and start smoking again. So I want you to understand that although I haven't dealt with this problem in the same way with food, I have felt that sense of doing something destructive to yourself as a means of trying to make yourself feel better. So I want to take that to the next step, which is the end of it for me. And so what I finally did to overcome this problem was that I got rid of every single thing that I had to do with smoking. I gave away or threw away any ashtrays that I had. I threw away any kind of paraphernalia that I had related to cigarettes, such as lighters. And this was a big one, that I had a really nice, expensive James Bond style DuPont lighter that was probably $1,000 lighter, beautiful. And it was a real work of art. And I always loved that lighter and sort of treasured it in some way. And believe it or not, that was my real anchor to smoking, was that lighter. and I decided to give that lighter away to someone. Despite its value, I just gave it away. And then what I did was I left town and I went to go visit my brother in Utah to go skiing for a week. And I knew that I would never smoke in front of my brother. He's a healthy person also. And it's one of these things that nobody really knew that I was smoking because I did so little of it. I kind of kept it on the down low and just did it at my house. And there was really no one to see me. So it was pretty much just my little secret that I had. And so in order to get over it, I literally had to cut all the ties that I had with cigarettes. And that was a very difficult thing to do. And believe me, when I got back from Park City, I was thinking about cigarettes the minute I got off that plane. So it wasn't easy to give it up. And I can tell you that despite the small, amount of cigarettes that I was smoking, it took me a good year before I felt like that I would not consider smoking a cigarette again. I would not do it. And there was despite stress or being out with friends where there's drinking or something like that, where it was a social environment where smoking might be okay, I just knew that I would never smoke again. But that took a long time to get there. So I wanted to use that story as a parallel to dealing with eating as a mechanism of self-destruction. And I'm hoping that I might be able to appeal to you in a way that can help you reframe the situation. So this is one of the toughest things that you can do, and that is to have a paradigm shift or some kind of neuro-linguistic programming shift where you anchor a new behavior over an old one that you had before. But what I'd suggest doing in this case with this overeating problem, when you're feeling emotional or stressed or upset, get an argument with your spouse or whatever it is that causes this trigger inside of you to start hurting yourself with food, consider doing a few things. One, don't buy food that you can injure yourself with. And I know that sounds like an obvious thing to do, but in the same way that I had to give up cigarettes by not purchasing cigarettes, that's all you really have to do is not buy cigarettes. If you don't buy foods that will injure you, that will cause harm to you, that will take you away from your ideal weight and from your health, then at least if you do feel this trigger of some upset, then you can have something to eat that's not so bad for you. For instance, I've mentioned in another video that celery and salsa is a really good one. There are some other good things that you can eat. Green beans, they taste really good, surprisingly. To me, I love green beans, and you can buy them in a bag, in the freezer bags, and cook them in 7 minutes and have a big bag of green beans, and it's 25 calories, which is practically like eating air. So I'd suggest considering getting all the food out of your house that can cause injury to you. Another thing that you can do is try to get support from people around you. And if you live in the house with someone, try to elicit their support and try to get them to help you basically when you feel these times when you want to overeat or eat something that you shouldn't, or eat too late at night and eat too much food at night, to help you basically to stay on track. So it really helps to have someone around you that's supportive of you. And if it's not in your house, then maybe a friend. So in my case, I didn't really lean on anybody because I was embarrassed basically that I was a smoker and I didn't want to admit it to people. It was basically my little secret. So no one really ever knew about it, but I think in retrospect, I would have done something like that. So this trigger and this situation that you deal with in terms of emotional eating is probably one of the more challenging things to overcome. So I don't want you to feel like that I'm trying to tell you just change and just take care of it and just be strong. It's not like that. It's like if you're in a state of depression and people tell you that you should just be grateful, it's like that's not the reason that you're depressed. The reason that you're depressed has nothing to do with gratitude. It's a chemical problem. It's another type of problem, and if you don't experience it, then you don't know what it's like. So I want you to know that I'm compassionate about the situation that you're in, but there really is no way around it except for to replace the behavior that you're doing with another one, which is the idea kind of behind neuro-linguistic programming. So when you start to feel these upsets, you can either have foods around you that are a little bit better for you, or you can interrupt that feeling with a new feeling. You can go out and go walking, you can call someone up on the telephone, you can do something else, whatever it is that causes you to start this trigger, interrupt it with something new. And eventually you'll overcome the trigger. It just takes a lot of repetition. For me, just backstory a little bit, I was smoking, and basically what I would do, I would come home at night And I would walk my dogs and I'd let them run around in my backyard, and I would have a smoke on my porch, and I would survey all that was mine, and enjoy the scenery of my backyard and so on. And it was kind of like my little relaxing time. And that's a difficult thing to give up because I really did enjoy it. But the truth was, I just stopped doing it. Even though it's really nice to go outside, I quit doing it. And I just interrupted that by doing something different, which actually, it was funny enough, I started playing a video game that I really liked a lot at night, and that would sort of take my thought off of it. I don't do that now, but that was what I did at the time. So anyway, I just want you to know that this is not an easy challenge. It is one that you can overcome, but you do have to make like some kind of steps towards it, and you can't just ignore it. You have to do something basically to start interrupting this process so that you don't damage yourself. So get some healthy foods around you. If you know the triggers are boredom or upset or whatever, start to find new things to interrupt those feelings if there's any way that you can. So there's all kinds of things that you can do: play a video game, go out walking, call a friend, get on the internet, whatever it is that you do that can take your mind off of it. Start doing that and try to interrupt this upset with a new type of behavior, and eventually you'll groove it in just like a golf swing. It can take a long time, but you can groove it in. So I just want you to know that I support you, and I know it's difficult to deal with a situation. I don't want to discount it and act like it's not important. It is important, but you can overcome it, and you just need to set some things in place so that you don't make it easy to fall back into this bad pattern of emotional eating or upset eating, and it's a self-destructive behavior. You want to try to avoid these self-destructive behaviors. Over time, as you become more healthy and stronger, you will find that being fit and healthy has a tremendous addictive quality on its own. It takes a while to get there if you're not near it now, which I really do appreciate. But just remember that if you stick with it and you keep going and keep making these daily steps towards something better, you will eventually reap this great harvest of health that you just can't believe how wonderful it is. I mean, at the time of this recording, I'm 53 years old, and I am faster on my bike than I've ever been. I'm stronger in the gym on everything except for my squat, basically. And I'm doing, I put on 10 pounds of muscle last year, basically, from lifting weights. So, even though I'm getting older, I'm improving, and it's highly addictive and really fun. So you can do the same thing. I started from nothing. I mean, zero. I was 100 pounds less than I am today. So I built 100 pounds of extra muscle basically in my life. And that is a really fun accomplishment, something I really never thought I could do. So if you stick with it, you can reap the benefit. Just try to stay on track and start working on positive things that you can do to get off of this train that's making you do self-injury. All right, so I've got your back. I'm here to help you. If you need anything, please feel free to reach out and keep kicking ass on this weight loss challenge.